Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So 8:20 after that incredible night out, Michael Owens and his whole gang always do a spectacular job. So this is my second conference with Michael's group, and not to be outdone one to another. I'm going to speak about building and innovation and a host of projects that we have going on up at Columbia University Medical Center in New York. We're located right on the banks of the Hudson River in Upper Manhattan, immediately adjacent to the George Washington Bridge. We share the site with New York Presbyterian Hospital, New York State Psychiatric Institute, and several other groups. There's the National Track and Field Hall of Fame up there. We are a deep urban campus, a little bit very different than my co-presenter, Tom Morrison, who's going to speak about Indiana University. But probably like many of your campuses, is that we've grown organically over the decades. The campus was effectively founded by a gift back in the early 20s, and a host of the core buildings at that time, let's see, I think I got it, there we go, we do have a pointer. A host of the buildings, really the core buildings, were built back in the late 20s, and that has grown organically over time. And interestingly, so we're not only a hospital, but we're a major research institute. We're top 12 NIH sponsored research institute with 750 research laboratories, a host of animal facilities, clinical care, as I said. But over the decades, we have not done a lot for really thinking through education. With that, I'm going to speak to the education projects that we've really worked on over the last 7-8 years as part of an education master plan. So with that, like many of you, as I said, we are inundated with innovation. We utilize innovation to really inform many aspects of the way that we live. And I'm going to speak to really two key components. One is really thinking about the way that we study, and innovation really informs that, the way that we educate, and then ultimately how those two discussion points really translate into the way that we've been building. So with that, the way that we study is extraordinarily different than the way that people used to study. And I'm going to just use two iconic figures to kind of do a transition in my presentation here. First is that, you all know this person, but he's using a book to study. Something very, very different. Back in 2008, we built a brand new, what we call Hammer Teaching and Learning Center. We took 550,000 volumes of books in the medical education facility in the library, and we consolidated that down into 50,000 volumes. That came hand in hand with a new dean that came out from UCSF, Lee Goldman, and it was extraordinarily controversial at the time. So 2008, people were still holding on to stacks and stacks of books. And he said there's absolutely no reason for all these books to be here. What we really need is to be forward-looking, thinking about collaborative space for people to work together, to study together, and to be utilizing the technology much more effectively. On the left, you can see and really sort of on the right-hand side of that is just sort of the beginning of the edges of the stacks. All those stacks were effectively blown out, as I said, with the exception of about 10% of that. And those two full stories in the Hammer Research Building were converted into new education space and collaborative study space. The project was really used as a beta project, if you will, for another project I'm going to be speaking to in a moment, which is a new medical and graduate education building. But this project, as I said, it was really designed back in 2008, And one of the key discussion points is how much to really invest in and what type of technology to integrate into that learning environment. As you can see, what we did is that really we probably invested about $600,000 in these very sort of specialized tables that all have the laptops integrated into those tables, all flip up type of furniture setting, integrated in with a whole series of monitors and so forth. Building that again today, that would, truthfully, that's all transitional technology at this stage of the game. The iPad has completely changed that, as has sort of touchscreen, large monitors and so forth. In addition to that, sort of the phase two of the change out, if you will, of the research library was all those books went by the wayside. The technology really went by the wayside. I'm sorry, the technology did not go by the wayside, but the study environments went by the wayside, and it was the administration that managed all of that research, books and so forth. That went by the wayside. And so what we did is it just opened up earlier this year. It's a much more collaborative environment for the students. And what happened is that whole administrative group for managing books in the older style of learning changed into basically a help desk that is there to facilitate a much more collaborative learning environments. In addition to that I will say that the furniture systems are extraordinarily important in having a multitude of types of furniture systems and collaborative opportunities for students and researchers to sit together in a much more type of different and collaborative environment was very much key and central to the new environment. And then finally, while it's not, I guess, the sexiest picture, it really speaks to some of the technology and how students are utilizing that technology to educate one another and work together. And as part of the Hammer Knowledge Center, there was 8 different pods as part of the technology upgrade where people can use their laptops. You have 3 or 4 people sitting around, and then the opportunity to collaboratively demonstrate left and right between various students. So the technology, again, continues to constantly evolve, and I'm gathering that something like this may or may not be transitional again in the coming years. So my other iconic person is, hopefully you know who this person is. This is Sully Sullenberger. Sully was the captain, I believe it's United Airlines flight, back in 2009. Became really an icon for American heroes, and landed the plane after going through a field of birds, lost power, and landed the plane in the Hudson River. The reason I share this image with you is really to kind of underscore the importance of how we learn from one another and how we learn and borrow from different industries. Quite simply is that flight training has been a technology that has been part of aviation for decades. It prepares people and professionals to become the very best that they can and to manage challenging situations when those challenging situations appear. So with that, again, sort of coming back to our master plan dating back about 6-8 years ago, is we really looked at the convergence and thought a lot more about how technologies from other industries and so forth start to inform education up at the Columbia University. With that we worked through, and I'm going to speak about, just touch on 3 quick projects, about 8 minutes left, and how those projects deeply incorporate into technologies. First is the medical and graduate education building. The second is the new School of Nursing building, The third is the College of Dental Medicine. So across many of the health sciences, we have a tremendous focus and dedication on technologies, and we're really letting that inform the construction of those different projects. This is the first and perhaps the most major of the three major projects that we have. This is the new medical and graduate education building. As you can see, there's the George Washington Bridge right beyond. The building has an incredible framed view looking out onto the Hudson River and the banks of the Palisades beyond. The building was something that came out of an international design competition. We started with about 6 or 8 different firms. We then paid and invited 3 design firms to really go through full pre-schematic design packages. And this was the winning entry that was prepared by Diller Scofidio and Gensler Architects. Morphosis out of Los Angeles, and then also another firm, Kengo Kuma, out of Tokyo, were the 2 other entrants. But this project really spoke to what we call sort of the study cascade, and really is super expressive of the way the new different learning environments that face back towards the campus. The building has been in construction for about 30 months. We have a planned June 9th building dedication. I am a little afraid to say, and don't sleep that much, that the building looks not dissimilar than this right now. I am sure that we will get there, but it has been not without challenges. And truthfully, it really kind of comes back to the technology. In the same way as the technology informs the way that we teach and educate, the building, truthfully, about 15 years ago would not have been able to be built the way it is. The whole building on the south end, you see absolutely no columns in here, up and down the entire south elevation. But if you look very closely, about 30 feet back from the edge, on both sides, there's 2 columns that support the entire building. Where technology really comes in is in the building sciences, and it's all high-strength concretes. It's 12,000 psi concrete, and then using a much older technology the building was all post-tensioned, not dissimilar to parking decks and so forth. We spent a lot of time going out and seeing what our peers did before we built the building. We also had a program for the building, and the one thing, as a result of going out and seeing what our peer institutions had done, we took a national road trip, and we wanted to understand who's doing what. The largest component to that, and the thing that informed the program of the building, was us understanding how simulation informs and really is considered for the new next level of clinical skills and developmental training for clinicians. OSCE is basically objective structured clinical evaluation. Uses, it's basically on the left-hand side, as you can see, a whole series of viewing rooms, and then actors and actresses in those clinical settings, but there's a whole series of capture that people use to display and help evaluate students and future clinicians in a group setting, and transmitting those images to a broader group environment. The other building this is going to be done in about a year from now. This is the new School of Nursing building. And very similar to the medical school building, is that the programmatic requirements changed dramatically and focused about 25% of the building, then transformed into simulation facility. This is a building under construction today, and as I said earlier, a very sort of deep urban environment. We take advantage of every single square foot that we possibly can. As part of that clinical skills component is that operatories are instrumental to the simulation. You can see is that, again, there's sort of a control room, there's a clinical environment that's a simulated environment, and then also those types of environments have complete transparency, not only eye to eye, but also utilizing the technology to broadcast to other locations in the building. And as I was saying before, is that collaborative study environments are very, very important. So once again, I'm sorry that some of these images here, you just finished your breakfast, but central to what we do is really utilizing the technologies and broadcasting those technologies and capturing those technologies. And when students are in a particular moment, in a particular learning environment, that becomes a learning opportunity for the balance of the class. In this project, we spent, change is constant. And one of the things that we did is we upgraded just several months ago to do all of the video capture in HD. It was about a $2.5 million upgrade, but what it did is it treats the learning environment almost similar to a broadcast environment, so that there's an audience that's remote. That audience has the ability to have a dialogue with people within the clinical environment and to have a two-way discussion about a particular methodology. Finally, this is the College of Dental Medicine. Not a new building, but a project that we have, 35,000 square feet. A little bit of a smaller project and a renovation and adaptive reuse of existing space. But the notion of really learning from one another and borrowing from other technologies is that we all went out to the International Dental Show in Cologne, Germany. And what we did is we really wanted to see and understand what the latest and the greatest technologies are. The one thing that I will say is that the advancement of material science is going to dramatically inform the way clinicians and students change and educate and work together. And finally, one of the biggest advancements in the project is there was a convergence of both the preclinical and the clinical laboratories in that. In old days, we used to do it completely separate, the preclinical environment, so that they'd be working with mannequins. And then in this facility is that we integrated in the preclinical environment using the mannequins, using the technologies into the operatories, and integrating that in so that it was a real space saver on this particular project. And then just sort of in departing is we really take our slogan to heart. It's on our website, it's on most of our stationery, and there is, across all mediums, this in the research environment, in the clinical care environment, and then in the education environment, the discovery, the education, care, and then leadership across all those areas is of extraordinary importance to us. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Tom. Do you want to, should we do questions now, or do you want to?
We'll do questions after, Tom, and let both of you guys field some questions after that.
Perfect.
Thanks very much, Pat.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat.